What's up, everybody? Welcome to tonight's episode of the Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, the Tutorial Boss Guapo. With me, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Rick Elsie. Rick, what's up, brother?
How you guys doing?
It's gonna be a crazy night. I had this crazy idea last week that, we need to talk about a few things that happened during the week, but then we just need to talk some wrestling. Just wrestling in general. So that's what we're going to do tonight. But before we do, I do need to get some thank yous in. I want to say thank you to Ross and the boys from Labor 12 for our for our intro outro music. Track's called Head Rush, album's called Monsters. You can get it anywhere you get your streaming music. I want to say thank you to Joe and American Legacy for our Not Your Average merch. We got hats, beanies, skull caps, soon to be shirts, all the good things. We've got a big thank you to JReb's 3D printing for this little piece of awesomeness right here. If you have a logo that you would like to see in a light box like this, head over to jrebs3dprinting.com. He can get you taken care of. HeckYeahRadio.com. Thank you to them for giving us some availability. If you miss any of the shows, you head over to HeckYeahRadio.com. Click on the Not Your Average Mark button, and you can catch all of our audio podcasts. Thank you to Blind Ambition Studios for all our graphics. Thank you to the WrestlingSociety.com. If you head over there after the podcast, they have a section called the podcast room, and you can find us in there. Huge thank you to the guy for everything he does to make all this stuff work. And of course, go check out the website because he's done some amazing work on it. That would be notyouraverage.mark.com.
Absolutely.
We got Mikey in the chat. Want to say what's up to everybody in the chat. We've got Daddy Boss. We've got Mikey. We've got Jay Conrad Photography. Guys, thanks for being here. Mikey saying I'm wanting a BCW gimmick. I bet Cameron can get you hooked up. J-Reb will hook that right up for you. It's been a wild week in wrestling.
That's kind of been the theme for most of the year.
Honestly, it has. Let's kind of jump into some things. We had a pretty good go-home show for SmackDown. We got to see one of my favorite female wrestlers in a match that is not suited to her whatsoever. We got to see Michin versus Chelsea Green in a dumpster match.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into that, J-Reb in the chat saying, got my Aussie family watching tonight too. Well, J-Reb, we appreciate it. And to J-Reb's Aussie family, what's up? Welcome to the show. Bobby Munoz in the show as well. Bobby, great to have you here. But no, this match with Michin and Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, if she doesn't win a Slammy, she needs to win an Oscar. That's just, it is what it is. She plays her part so well.
Chelsea Green is the epitome of I can get over without ever winning a match.
Mm-hmm.
She knows exactly what to say, her facial expressions, her body language. She knows exactly what not to do, when to do what she's supposed to do. She is a absolute professional in every sense of the word, and she deserves anything amazing that comes her way.
Absolutely. I love watching her reactions to things. I mean, you talk about her facial expression. She could tell a whole story with just her face. And I love it. I'm here for it.
Her walk backstage after the match, just the walk backstage covered in goop was better almost than the match because just the way she sold it. It was amazing.
Well, it's definitely a lot of fun to watch. Michin getting the win on this one, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, just watching her was great. We had Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton with Tiffy Time. It was it was a good match, okay? I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But I cannot with the Tiffy Time thing.
Well, I think that you're gonna have to find a way to get used to that because it's kind of her catchphrase. So
Yeah, and
uh,
it's not going anywhere.
it isn't
It's not
going
going
anywhere.
anywhere anytime soon. That's for sure.
And they're look, spoiler alert, they taped next week's Raw right after Raw, and they're I have a feeling Tiffany is a she's about to be a big baby face. So
I know that she is. Doesn't make me happy about it, but I know that she is. Um, I'll say this: Tiffany Stratton is one of those that I put out there about like I do Chris Watson. Um, just an absolute goof outside of the ring. But when she steps through those ropes, it is A plus all the time. Like she is every move is calculated. She is an ace in the ring. I just can't with the Tiffy time. This match went well. Of course, Naomi going over in this one. Uh, there was a mistake that happened in this one that a lot of people have been talking about. Every now and then,
oh,
every now and then, you get a little too into the people you work with. You know, you know people you work with really really well, and
oh
sometimes you forget that maybe their government name ain't the same as their wrestling name.
that's right. That's
And
right.
Tiffany did make the mistake of calling Bailey by her government name.
That's right. She called her
So
Pam. That was great.
it's it was
Course corrected real fast. She course
oh yeah.
corrected real fast.
um,
I have been guilty of that in the past. I have called people by their government name, and the only person I've done that to is Damian Blood. I called him his actual name, and that has forced me to. I don't want to know anyone's real names. When I book people, I don't ask them any of that information. As far as I'm concerned, I call them by their worker names. That's how they're in my phone. That's how I refer to them because I don't ever want to get to the point to where I accidentally call somebody the wrong name.
no, and how, especially on that kind of at that level in that platform, that man, she had to be kicking herself after that one.
Well,
Um,
Bailey, you could see Bailey trying not to laugh. It was great.
we've got Bobby Munoz in the chat saying, "I'm not 100% sold on Tiffany Stratton. I've seen her live at the PC." Um, See, you get to see a side of it, Bobby, that we haven't had the opportunity to see. We see what's polished on television, but I've often wondered uh, what she's like in the PC when she's training, and there's no doubt in my mind she's going to be a huge star. It's the Tiffy time thing. I do Tiffy time. I will say, I had Mikey over at the house for Bad Blood. We didn't get a chance because of Nightmare on 19th, which if you're in the Lubbock area, make sure you go check out Nightmare on 19th. It's awesome. Because of Nightmare on 19th, didn't get to watch it till noon on Sunday. And of course, we're going to talk about that here shortly, but CM Punk comes out and he does his whole thing where he touches the ground and touches his watch like this, brings his hands up, and what do I hear from Mikey? It's Tiffy time, man. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Now that's all I'm going to hear whenever that happens. When I
Trust
see
me,
it
I know.
in my head, that's what I'm going to hear. That's what I'm going to hear.
Bobby's saying he's referring to the live NXT TV stuff. Okay, I get you. I get you. We had a tag title ladder match, which I thought this was cool.
It was. It was
You
a
had
really
the
good one.
Bloodline versus the Street Profits versus DIY, who have changed their name, by the way. Now they're hashtag DIY.
Yeah.
Look, you put DIY in a match, you put Street Profits in a match, that match alone is going to be outstanding. And of course, the Bloodline doing what they do, there's no way this is going to be a bad match. It did have some big points in it. The one point that a lot of people got mad about is the match was going for about maybe a minute and a half before they got their first commercial break. So there were some people a little annoyed by that. Tama Tonga taking a nasty hit to the head from the ladder. Like, I thought he was out there for a minute. It was not pretty.
Those matches are dangerous.
I don't think I have to tell you who won this match. I think everybody knows.
Well, of course.
Yeah, the bloodline gets the win on this one, and it was well deserved. I'll put it that way. What I liked is it wasn't just Bloodline going there and dominate everybody. Like, it was a good match that allowed all three teams to shine a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they did.
Everybody looked great. Everybody looked great. But the Guerrillas of Destiny were the ones that came out with the belts.
Probably the biggest news from SmackDown. This, of course, being the go home show to Bad Blood, was didn't even have anything to do with Bad Blood, but it was the return of AJ Styles, short-lived though it may be.
Yeah.
He had a good match with Carmelo Hayes. I mean, I'm kind of torn, and I want your opinion on this, Rick. Watching the injury, he got injured. You could see it a little bit when he did his moonsault off the rope, but I don't remember if it was a suplex he was doing, suplex into a backbreaker.
It was Hayes fell on AJ's ankle, and it twisted his leg the wrong direction.
Well, I'm trying to decide between legitimate injury or a work.
They said that it was originally supposed to be, they were going to build a work, but that AJ legitimately did get hurt in the end.
Okay, so we may not see AJ for a little bit.
I don't think I think it's gonna be very similar to when Jacob Fatu had the boot on.
Right.
I think that we'll see AJ as long as he doesn't have to get in there and do too terribly much. But I mean, AJ has said numerous times he's nearing the end. He signed that 5-year deal a couple years ago, and he said that was the last deal he was signing. So, like, for anybody, like, this is it. So
I believe it. All in all, of course, scattered in between all of this, we get hype videos for Bad Blood. All in all, I think it was a good show. They were able to do big things without the whole thing being about this is going to happen on Bad Blood. So I like the fact that they did that.
It was a solid go home show for a PLE. They did what they needed to do. They sold the show. They had some good matches. There's really nothing on this show to be upset about. And if people are upset about the number of commercials, I mean, how dare they try to make some money? I mean, what are you doing? Like, commercials happen. Like, and here's the funny thing: everybody who's waiting for the Netflix deal, I don't know if you watch Netflix regularly. They have ads too. So if you think that you're about to get 3 hours of Raw on Netflix uninterrupted, think again. It's not going to happen. Find something else to get upset and offended about, because, sorry, wrestling promotions have commercials.
Yes, they do. All in all, I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm going to give it an A. It was good for a go-home show. Like, yeah. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, solid A stuff.
That takes us into Bad Blood. I was highly impressed with Bad Blood. I like the fact that they put the Hell in a Cell match very first thing. And
Hell in a Cell had to.
Say that again.
Hell in a Cell, yeah, it had to be first. Hell in a Cell had to be first because, look, regardless if you expected the big thing at the end that happened, even if you didn't expect that, Cody and Roman are the two biggest stars in the promotion.
Absolutely.
And regardless of the fact that Punk and McIntyre is absolutely feud of the year and Hell in the Cell was a big deal, it was also messy and gory and crazy. And you need to get that stuff out of the way.
Just the cleanup alone. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely should have gone first.
no, and I agree, and I'm glad that it did. This absolutely match of the night for me. Before we get too deep into it, going to look over at the chat. Bobby Munoz saying, but don't they have a deal where you can pay for commercial free? I do believe, I know they do now. Like right now, they have a deal you can pay for ad free. Once WWE programming gets on there, I do believe they're going to have some form or fashion of that ability.
You can get on an ad-free tier, but that's ad-free from the Netflix sponsored ads. WWE will have their own built-in ads, just like they do on the Peacock, just like they do on did on the regular network. There is no such thing as ad-free, because even the entities that you pay that you watch on the platform may sell ad-free tiers. Everybody has the built-in ads.
Yeah, they'll have their built-in ads, but as far as what you're talking about, Bobby, they will have a tier where the ads you get from Netflix won't be there. Going back to the Hell in a Cell match, man, oh man. I mean, what can you really say about this? They beat the hell out of each other. They hit each other with toolboxes, wrenches. I mean,
I think they absolutely made up for the Seth Rollins Fiend debacle.
I could see that.
I mean, they used the toolbox.
So, yeah, they used
it. As soon as they brought the toolbox out, I was like, oh, okay, we're making up for the toolbox.
All I can say is it looked like, Punk was doing, or not Punk, but Drew was doing all right up until he got hit with that toolbox, and it's just gush of blood.
Open. Oh my gosh.
If I remember correctly, afterwards I heard he had to have 16 stitches across this part of his head.
It wasn't stitches, there were staples.
There were 16 staples.
17 staples.
So he's got Finn beat out.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
It was a great match. It told a good story. I like the fact that everybody was expecting when the black bag came out and he held it up, everybody's expecting thumbtacks because it's a Hell in a Cell match. And how many times have you seen the black bag? And they go to dump it out, and it's those little beads that the bracelets are made, the Punk's bracelets made out of. I thought that was perfect.
It was a great story beat. Absolutely an amazing story beat.
I'll tell you what I didn't think was perfect. Drew McIntyre going for a Claymore kick and Punk moving out of the way and him going back first into those steps. I was walking funny after that.
I was convinced that he had done something awful to his tailbone. I mean, that was so ugly. Oh my God.
I don't think we see Drew for, a month or so.
The man deserves time off. Let the man go heal. No. I mean, Punk even came out on Monday and he did not look well. So
no, he did not. he came out and he's like, it hurts to walk, it hurts to smile, it hurts to breathe. So I'm just going to stand here, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can see why. Like, it was a brutal match, and both of them kudos galore because they made that PLE for me.
Yeah.
Like the other matches were good, but this absolutely match of the night for me.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Of course, Punk goes over in this one and almost has trouble standing up to show that he's the winner. You could tell when the adrenaline started wearing off because he damn near fell out.
Yeah. That was rough.
So, it was a really good match. We went from that into WWE Women's Championship, which was Nia Jax versus Bayley. This one I had some problems with. and they were. There's more timing problems than anything else. Don't get me wrong, Nia Jax. I'm so happy for her. She is putting on some of the best work of her life right now. I don't think there's anybody that could disagree with that. And you've heard my thoughts on Bayley. Bayley's who you put in the ring if you want to elevate somebody. So
I
them
think that the
having this match,
problems I think that the problems with the match doesn't really have much to do with the people involved. I don't think it was fair to put this match after Hell in a Cell. And I'll tell you why. Because other than the Tiffany Stratton stuff, there was no extra bells and whistles involved in this matchup. Whereas Finn and Damian Priest was littered with bells and whistles. And I felt like Damian and Finn should have followed Hell in the Cell because it would have been easier on them and the match because there were so many extra overbooked points of their match with run-ins and craziness and all the stuff they were doing. I feel like Nia and Bayley felt the need to try and overcompensate because they were following Hell in the Cell, and I think that's what led to them botching a lot of their stuff. I think it was unfair to put that match after Hell in the Cell, knowing that you had another singles match on the show that would have all of the extra blah blah. That should have followed Hell in the Cell.
and I can agree with that. I think it would have made for a better transition into this match. But here's, even without bells and whistles, setting on the other side, here was my problem with this match. Um, First off, you got to see something really cool. Like you got to see Nia Jax do a form of a Hurricane Rana. Thought that was
Mhm.
cool. Bayley sold it very well. Bobby Munoz in the chat saying Bayley can wrestle a broomstick and still look amazing. Absolutely, and this is that speaks directly to this point. She made that look good. There was a move that Bayley pulled that put Nia down for a second. She just popped right back up and went for the pin. You can't. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the no sell. I never have been a fan of the no sell. I get using it, and Rick, I think I told you this. The only time I've ever been a fan of the no sell is when Hulk Hogan was hulking up, and I was 8. That's
One of the tropes of wrestling has always been the giants slash monsters always have their moments of no sell.
true.
Road Warriors did it. Nikita Koloff did it. Strowman still does it. They had those. I used to get real upset as a fan when Ric Flair would pile drive Road Warrior Hawk and he'd just stand up. I didn't like
True.
that. It pissed me. It used to piss me off when Taz would do it. I understand that, Taz was, booked in this way in ECW that he was this little monster that could destroy all these people. That's fine. You can do that, for a little bit. But when you put him on a main stage and he's in front of a major crowd and it's not just your niche fans anymore, I'm sorry. I'm going to need him to sell a pile driver from Jerry Lawler, who is a 30-year veteran of the sport, and the pile driver is his signature move over decades and decades and decades, and you're just going to pop back up. It's ridiculous.
Mikey in the chat saying Hawk no sold a pile driver from Lawler.
Yes, he did too. Hawk no sold the pile driver all the time for everybody. That was one of his things. I never understood. I know he had great neck muscles. I get it. But at the same time, I have never been a big fan of no selling somebody's finisher.
No, not at all. And that's not what this was, granted, but it looked like something was mistimed or something was miscommunicated, because
It could have been too. It could have been.
if you're going to go down the way that Nia Jax did, and then it looks like she set up and was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to cover here, and so it made it look a little sloppy. And that's not saying anything against Nia or Bayley. It just, the way that it happened looked a little sloppy. So I had a little bit of a problem with that one. I will say that Nia Jax did pull off the win in this one, so she is still your WWE Women's Champion, and I see that lasting for a while. I mean, she's going to be a hard one to beat.
Yeah, I mean, having her as the champion is good because whoever's going to beat her, it's going to help them.
It is, and you're talking about wrestling tropes. It's the trope of, you know, you could take it back to Andre the Giant. Went this long without being beat. So you can get that same kind of thing with Nia Jax, and so whoever does beat her, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, it'll be a big deal.
Looking over at the chat, we've got Aaron Marie in. Aaron, hey, what's up? Glad you could join us tonight. We're talking Bad Blood right now. We go into the match you were just discussing a minute ago. After this, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. I was happy with this match.
It was a good match.
It was. Damian Priest was just beating the hell out of Finn. Like I like watching Damian Priest because you can almost see you could see the anger. Like he told the story, facial expressions, the power of his hits. He really told the story in that. And you talk about facial expressions, the eye work from Finn Balor has always been something for me. Like not even the full face, just the way he can furrow his brow or, pop his eyes. Like his eye work is crazy. The only thing I had about this one is, with both of them having been Judgment Day, of course, Finn Balor still in Judgment Day, Damian Priest no longer in Judgment Day. Do we continue on with the Damian versus Judgment Day thing, or are we moving away from that? What are we going to start doing with Finn? The match was great, but it leaves questions as to where do we go from here?
I don't know if they know where they're going yet because I still think that the Raw side of War Games is going to be Judgment Day oriented.
Think it's going to be Judgment Day and what?
I think it's going to be Judgment Day oriented. I think that the Raw side of War Games will be around the Judgment Day because they're the only group on the roster that has 5 members or more. And
right.
So, and you've got enough people that have touched them that could end up with, Rhea and Damian on the other side. So I feel like there's still more to come, but if they're going to do that, then Finn has got to have another match with Priest and he's got to get a win.
Yes. Looking over at the chat, Aaron Marie saying the cage match was interesting. Love CM Punk. He kicked ass. They both did. And we're gonna talk a little more about CM Punk when we get to Raw. But all in all, this was a great match. I like what they're doing. I'm interested to. It's not so much a wonderment of where they're going as much as I'm interested to see where they go from here. That took us into our Women's World Championship. Yeah, Judgment Day versus Wyatt Six. Whenever you said there was they're the only group with 5 people, I was like, well, there is another group, but that group has yet to be on a PLE. And I really think we're going to get more. I think the Wyatt Six moving forward is going to be more oriented towards Karrion Kross and Final Testament. I think that's where we're headed with that. We'll talk.
Yeah, I honestly I forgot about the Wyatt Six, but I guess the reason why it wasn't prevalent in my head was because they haven't really had, other than the stuff with Gable, they haven't really had like many feuds. They haven't touched many people, and I don't know that they've done enough to be in a War Games match yet. But I mean, we still got a month. But
oh yeah, if there's one thing that's been proven as of late, there's a whole lot can happen in a month.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, we get the Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley in what is going to be as close as we can get to a Dominic Mysterio on a pole match. And as much trash as I talk about Dominic Mysterio, kudos to him. Because you want to talk about telling a story. His face getting in that cage, he sold the hell out of that.
That was a lot. It was really funny. He did a great job.
And let's not forget, the Dirty Dom toilet paper. That was like I have to buy some of that just so I can say I have some. It'll go right on the shelf right back here. Um, I'm sorry, it was just great. We got a great match out of this. You got a whole lot of what you would expect. You got a whole lot of Rhea Ripley beating the hell out of Liv Morgan. There was some pent up frustration taken care of that night. Thought it was funny. You have the ref who WWE has started recently with the ref cam. They got a cam that comes right behind their ear.
Yes.
And so they're in the match. Rhea's beating the hell out of her, and Rhea's like, "Give me just a minute. I got some things I got to take care of. I'll get to her in a minute." And ref's like, "Okay, you deserve that." So she goes and grabs a kendo stick and turns Dom, who has figured out how to get the cage open and I guess didn't pay attention to the placement of chains because it was wrapped around his foot as he fell out of the cage, turned him into a Dominic Pinata. And I was all about it. Like Triple H said it best in the presser afterwards. Dom has a fear of heights. He has a fear of cages. Now probably kendo sticks and pinatas because he became one. Only thing missing was the candy, and if they'd let Rhea go long enough, we'd have probably got that.
Now, see, what would have been really funny is if she'd have started hitting him and chicken tendies had fallen out of his pockets. That'd have been great.
Not the chicken tendies.
I'm just sticking with the storyline. I mean,
that's great. Rhea did stop hitting him, though. Didn't have much of a choice because to the rescue comes Raquel Rodriguez. Now, yes. I kind of thought this was going to happen. Like I had read some things that this was a possibility. I'm not sure how I feel about a heel Raquel Rodriguez.
I like a heel Raquel Rodriguez. I like the idea of it because I really enjoyed the Big Mommy Cool character in NXT, where she had a little bit of a harder edge. And so I think, and then of course, I did not enjoy what she was wearing when she came back. She did not look good. But I do think on Monday, when she showed up on Monday, she looked amazing. Yes, and so absolutely. I think that the Big Mommy Cool stuff is going to be really good.
I think so. It's going to grow on me. I know that it will. I'm not there yet. Like I still see Raquel as the face, but it'll grow on me. We of course are going to get some form of Judgment Day involvement in the women's Survivor Series match as well. Yes. There's no way Liv and Raquel aren't a part of that. At least that's my thoughts on it.
They'll be a part of it. If they do something like that, it's going to be an intergender type thing.
I think so. I think you're right about that. And that, of course, leads us into, of course, Liv won that. Well, actually, I guess Rhea won that match because of the interference. And it seemed like there was some timing off in that as well because I think that was
the ref should not have seen the interference.
Yeah, the ref shouldn't have seen the interference.
You could tell because Raquel didn't know the ref had seen it, and she pulled Liv on top of Rhea for the pin. If she'd have known that that they were being DQ'd, I don't think she'd have done
that. We got Mikey in the chat saying "mommy versus mommy." I mean,
well, it sounds like a winner.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't watch it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Rhea and Raquel go way back, though. They go way back. They tag teamed on the Florida house show loops for NXT before they were ever on television. So, I mean, they've been attached to each other for a long time.
They have, and There's no way they don't end up in a match together. I mean, it's just another layer to add to this feud, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. That does bring us to the main event: the Bloodline versus Cody and Roman Reigns. Which I heard so many things about this match. A couple of them happened. Several of them didn't. I heard that Roman was going to come out with Paul Heyman, and he didn't. I heard that towards the end of the match, Paul Heyman was going to walk out with Brock Lesnar. Like, there's so many. The rumor mill was going wild with this match, which is good. You know, you got a good thing going when the rumor mill is that active.
Yeah, I mean, people were definitely invested in it, but I think that the way that it went down was exactly the way it should have gone down.
I agree.
Getting Jimmy back was good, and of course, The Rock showing up at the end.
No,
now you know immediately now why that was not the opener.
Yeah. There's no way The Rock's going to be in anything but the main event.
Sorry.
The match was great. Like, I enjoyed the entire match. The first time you got Solo and Roman face to face in the ring, that was a moment. That was the crowd just absolutely into it. So those, I don't want to call it planting seeds, but it kind of is.
It is. It is. It's just little bitty moments like that. That's it, because it's gonna lead to something bigger, and you don't have to do everything right now.
It was really, really good to see Jimmy make his way back, though. You know, you kind of figured when you saw somebody come out with a hoodie and black hoodie, black mask. Could that be Jimmy, or are they trying to swerve us? And then you see the kick and like, okay, yeah, that's Jimmy. Of course, he reveals himself. We end up with Roman Reigns getting the pin. Cody Rhodes not available for the pin, and I love every bit of it because it's a callback. It calls, I don't even remember which PLE it was, where Jacob Fatu dove off and broke 2 of Cody's ribs.
Yeah.
And so it's a callback to that, and I love the fact that Cody Rhodes got up on the rope. He's got Jacob Fatu laid out on the announce table, looks over at Roman, gives him the salute like, all right, I'm out. This is on you now. And he makes the dive, and him and Jacob stay out for a while. Roman Reigns able to get the pin, and as he and Jimmy are leaving, the Bloodline jumps in, starts beating down Cody, and it was kind of surprising to hear Jimmy say, "You gave him your word, Oos. We got to go do this," and they went in and cleared the ring.
Yep.
So it was a lot of fun to watch. And then, of course, The Rock shows up, and he's got his People's Champ belt with him. I'm not going to call it a consolation prize. No, I'm not even going to get into that. He had his People's Champ belt with him and didn't say anything. Didn't have to. Like, I mean, the moment was electric. That's what he does.
I think he absolutely alluded to a potential triple threat because he'd looking right at Cody and Roman, and he did 1, 2, 3, and then did the throat slice. So that, to me, that says triple threat.
And
if they're gonna do a triple threat, then that tells me that the main event, that's going to be one night of Mania, but the other night it's probably going to be Seth and CM Punk.
Oh yeah, got to be Seth and CM Punk.
Yeah, or potentially Gunther, John Cena. So
that would be a good one too. That'd be a real good one. All in all, I was happy with Bad Blood as a PLE. Like I said, I had a few timing issues with a couple of things, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I give it an A.
Yeah, solid show. Solid show.
That's going to take us over to Raw. We'll do a quick run through on it. Of course, we talked about this a few minutes ago. CM Punk comes out just looking like he was in a Hell in a Cell match. Like, that was bad. He had Band-Aids everywhere. His arms taped up. His wrist is taped up. There was a point in that match where the tape he had on his wrist looked like flayed skin because it had so much blood on it. You couldn't even tell it was tape anymore.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was that he literally went through hell. Now, a lot of people wondering what he meant. He thanked three groups of his fans. He thanked the people that were there all along. He thanked his co-workers in the back, and he thanked his haters. And he said, "I'd like to say I'll be back soon, but I just don't know anymore." And so he's going home to heal. Do I think he's going to be back? Of course he's going to be back because him and Seth are going to do a thing.
Well, yeah,
But
the simple fact that he was immediately interrupted by Seth Rollins. I mean, that tells you right there. That's the play.
It is. And Seth comes out and lets Big Bronson Reed know he's got something for him. Of course, Big Bronson Reed not there tonight, but he got something for him. Then we get into the matches, and this is our first 2-hour Raw in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been forever since we've had a 2-hour Raw as opposed to a 3-hour, and I like the way they did this. It's just things on top of things on top of things. This Raw is where I found, you said this earlier about SmackDown, but Raw is where I found I've heard the most complaining about, there were so many ads. What's with all the ads?
Yeah.
Well, you're taking 3 hours worth of programming that ads were sold for months ago and condensing it into 2 hours. I mean,
Yep.
It's going to be that way, and the people that are upset about it need to calm down.
And you should expect it for the next few weeks.
And I ain't gonna lie, there's a lot of the people that are mad about this, like personal friends of mine that have had things to say about that. That I don't have a big enough Big Chief pad or enough crayons to explain to them why we're doing that. Looking over the chat, we've got Sydney Motes in the chat. Sydney, glad you could make it in. We're getting into the Raw recap at the moment. The matches we had on here were one right after the other, and I enjoyed that. We had, of course, Jey Uso up against Xavier Woods. This was a good match. Like I dug it. I think they're still trying to slow burn the Xavier turn with just the little things they did. Jay gets the win in the end, but he goes to shake hands, and Kofi shakes his hand, sticks his hand out to Xavier. Xavier just walks past him, gets out of the ring.
Yep.
Kofi's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And here comes Ron Breakker into the ring and just beelines for Jey Uso.
Oh yeah, and he throttled Jey Uso. Absolutely throttled.
Jay didn't get the worst of the spears, in my opinion. Kofi did.
Yeah, when Kofi came back to help, yeah, he got murdered.
He folded Kofi like origami, man. It was bad.
But I love that Xavier was like, "No, I'm not going back to help him." Oh, that was awesome.
No, it was. It was great. And Kofi didn't go back out. Kofi made it back, or Kofi went out there to help, and Xavier is trying to figure out why. And he went out there long enough to grab Kofi after he got folded and pull him out, only to receive a running spear himself. And Breaker's standing tall at the end of it. He takes off, and they ask him backstage, you were singing praises last week. What's changed? And he didn't have a word to say.
No.
He just angry.
Yep, just mad.
Then we had the good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. And I like this setup for this. They had the bar. They had the barrels. They had a couple of shillelaghs out there. Like, I like the setup. Just ringside. The Sheamus and Pete Dunne beat the hell out of each other. Like, it's what a Donnybrook match should be. They found creative ways to use the shillelagh. I'm pretty sure Pete Dunne broke one of the shillelaghs over Sheamus.
Yes.
Like, it was a pretty brutal match, and I know that Sheamus, like, he had hit something that cut him right through here. And so
he
we had
yeah he got real banged up.
he did, both of them did, and of course Pete Dunne, the master of small joint manipulation, and made it a point to make anybody that was watching cringe when he taking fingers and popping them like that.
Yeah.
In the end, Sheamus pulls it off. Awesome, awesome, awesome match. Yeah, the white noise on the tables. Yeah, that I can't. This match wasn't quite as bad as the Hell in a Cell, but I bet they hurt just as bad.
Well, they definitely tore it up, and it was good television match. I like that they've got a decent feud going with those guys, and yeah, it's just giving Pete Dunne the opportunity to really get in there, show what he can do. Uh, I love it. Sheamus is one of those guys. He's been around for so long. He has so much clout. Um, he's going to be completely fine with whatever they do with this. But I really hope that when this is all said and done, I really want Pete Dunne to get a good win over Sheamus, a really
Oh yeah,
good win, because I would love for Pete Dunne to walk away from this elevated.
no, I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. Um, One thing I want to say about Sheamus, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed and I popped whenever Drew did his whole burger after burger after burger thing. But can we talk for just a minute about the shape that Sheamus is in right now? Like coming back from when he first came back to where he is now, kudos to him because he looks amazing. And I hope I can do half the shit he's doing when I'm his age. It's crazy. So we had our next match I missed part of, so I'm gonna have to let you kind of talk about this one. Um, we had a 10-woman tag team match. So I ended up having some programming issues. So um, I know we had Team Natty. Who all was on Team Natty?
It was Natalia, Katana Chance, Caden Carter, Lyra Valkyria, and Zelina Vega.
Okay, and they were against who?
And they were against Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, Zoe Stark, Sonya Deville, and Shayna Baszler.
Ah, yes, the Kamehameha team. Oh, excuse
Yes.
me. I'm sorry. Pure Fusion Collective. That's what they're called. Same thing, man. I'm telling you now. That is if that is not some Dragon Ball stuff, it should be.
I
I
thought
can
that
see.
look, this match was what it was. It was an excuse to get 10 women on the show. It was, they had about 5 minutes total of television time because they had 2 minutes worth of commercials in the middle of it. Um, they had a nice, quick little encounter. All the baby faces got to hit their moves. Um, it is what it is, and this is going to be the presentation for probably the rest of the year. So,
And I can see that. This also did though. I mean, it does kind of further storylines because Zelina Vega, of course, having problems with PFC, as does Lyra Valkyria and Chance Carter. Like the only person that I'm not sure why they were there was Natty.
because they were put out by it was Sonya and them that put Caden and Katana on the shelf, and the reason that Katana is wearing the face piece, and so yeah, they're back now to get revenge on the PFC.
Okay. See, I can call them PFC all day. I just call them Pure Fusion Collective. That's I'm picturing them standing out there angry at like Zelina Vega and 20 minutes of going Every time I hear Pure Fusion Collective, that's all I see. I cannot take them seriously. I really can't. Um,
I like the character work that they've done with Shayna Baszler in this group,
yes.
having her be more silent and stoic, talking with her facial expressions. I love that she's shuffling cards because she's the Queen of Spades. I think that is amazing. Like they have completely revamped Shayna Baszler as a character, and that's something she sorely needed.
Agreed.
So I'm really excited about that aspect of it.
And I don't disagree with that. And any of them, any of the three of them are absolute great talents. I'm not
It's a
saying
trio.
anything.
It's a trio of legit badasses.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything against their talent. I just the name, just the naming that it. No.
I also love that they are hard leaning into the lesbian aspect because the promo that Shane that Sonya cut a couple weeks ago about how men were upset because they couldn't they couldn't have them and they didn't want them and like that was I loved that. I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome. I know that Sonya Deville has been wanting for a while for them to really lean into some of the LGBTQ plus stuff. And I think that it's nice that they're getting to do that. I'm really happy for the three of them because I know that it means a lot to them.
It
So
does. And again, my only problem is the name.
yeah, look, anytime your group needs three words, it's
Yeah.
it's probably too much.
Unless those three words are New Age Outlaws, it ain't gonna
Yeah.
work.
But see, even the New Age Outlaws at one point, like they had NOA on a lot of their gear.
They did.
So I mean, on the literally on the Tron, like on the entrance, they have Pure Fusion Collective on the sides, but in the middle they do PFC.
It's
So
probably for the best.
yeah, yeah, because that's just people will call them PFC. That's fine.
But we also got our much awaited World Heavyweight Championship match: Sami Zayn versus Gunther. What a match! Like
I
I
thought
love
it was
watching
awesome.
Zayn.
I thought it was awesome. Uh, I have to. if I'm being honest, I was a little disappointed that they didn't go with my fantasy booking because, as much as I will never be a fan of Goldberg, ever, I will acknowledge that he is wildly popular.
He
And
is that.
if he had shown up and speared Gunther and Sammy had won the title, we could have had Gunther versus Goldberg in Saudi, and we could have had Sammy versus Cody in Saudi, and that would have been for, in my opinion, a better match than we're going to get out of Cody and Gunther. And that is not to say that Cody and Gunther are not suited to have a match. It's just saying the way that they're going to have to book it to make both guys look good, it seems like they're taking a big risk with that kind of a match. So, and Gunther could have always gotten that belt back from Sammy right after Saudi, and it wouldn't
Yeah,
have been a problem.
absolutely.
So I feel like they kind of missed an opportunity there. But that's the only reason I was upset. But that's on me. I'm not upset at them because that's my fantasy booking, and I don't expect them to adhere to what I want. Unlike most of the internet that gets very upset when the things they think should happen don't happen, and then they blame the company for that. Like, get over yourself.
You didn't write it the way I wanted you to. I'm not
Yeah,
watching anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand internet trolls like that. But all in all, Raw was good. Even in the 2 hour format, I enjoyed it. I liked the hurry up aspect of it, like promos on top of matches on like it. I dug it. I thought it was cool.
It was good.
Uh,
It was a good match, and it had a
but
good ending. I loved the the ending of the kick out at 1, which just Gunther's the way he sold it, that Sammy kicked out at 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately into the sleeper choke, and Sammy's out. I mean,
We're
that was
done.
great. That was
It
awesome.
was. It was a good way to end. Uh, I'll give it an A minus. Like I'm good with it. I'm interested to see where we go with some of these things. It was a solid show.
Yeah, it was a
Uh,
good show.
Now, one of the things I did in preparation for this show is I sent some feelers out to get some see if anybody had questions out there that they wanted us to talk about on the show, and I did get I got a response to that from Bobby Munoz. Of course, he's in the chat with us, and Bobby, good questions. Like I dig the questions you sent. So let's go through them real quick. Number one, is cursing necessary to get a heel over in his promos? You answer, and then I'll give my answer.
I don't believe that it is necessary. I believe that cursing with context can put emphasis and an exclamation on situations, but that only works, in my opinion, if it's done minimally. Um, Perfect example at SCP, couple of, earlier in the year, we had Justin Taylor use the F word on microphone. Justin has never used that word on a microphone at a wrestling show. Justin has been wrestling for years. He wrestles all over the place. He has never cursed out loud on a microphone. So when my crowd heard him do it, they knew he was pissed.
Yeah.
And that added context and severity to the story. It wouldn't have been the same if I'd had Gringo go out there and do it, because he cusses all the time.
Right.
So I do not believe it is necessary. I believe that it can help in certain situations.
And I agree with that. I don't feel like it's necessary. I feel like, much like you said, that in certain situations it adds the oomph and the exclamation. And also, sometimes it's character based.
Mm-hmm.
I Steve Austin, perfect example. He wasn't a heel. He's like the anti-face, anti-heel.
Yep.
But Steve Austin ain't Steve Austin unless he's calling somebody a some bitch. That's part of the gimmick. So I mean that feeds into his gimmick to throw up the
Yes.
middle fingers and call people names like that. So in that instance, I'm good with it. But
But he never
CM
went
Punk,
on profanity laced tirades.
no, no, it was always calling Vince a name, or you're looking in the eyes of the world's toughest. It was always one shot, and it worked. It worked well for Austin's character. But I think it was. I read something CM Punk put out, as well as Roman Reigns, where they said, I think it's harder and more entertaining to stay in the format we have now, as opposed to going through profanity laced promos, or using the F word like a comma. I don't think we need to do that. And I agree with both of them. I think that's absolutely right.
Well, look at Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas is one of the perfect examples. We call it a Shane Douglas promo now when it's filled with expletives. Okay,
Right.
so you had him using expletives 2, 3 a sentence in ECW, and then he went to WWF to play, the bad teacher, and he couldn't cuss, so his promos fell flat. And then he went back to ECW and he cussed some more, and then he ended up in WCW where he couldn't cuss again, and it changed the expectation of what people expected out of the franchise. He essentially painted himself into a corner.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Second question we got: does everyone have to parade around the ring to get the crowd invested during their entrances?
You want to take that one?
I will. I think everybody needs to do that? No, I don't, because sometimes it's what you do inside the ring once you get to the ring. Sometimes it's that slow walk to the ring and just completely ignoring the crowd and getting in the ring that builds your heat. Now, do I realize that it severely depends on your crowd? If you've got a crowd where your front row is kids, and you're at a family friendly show and your front row is kids, it makes their entire day when their favorite wrestler comes over, gives them a high five. So I think it's a matter where you have to read the room, but no, it doesn't have to be done by everybody every time.
It's going to depend on what your booker wants out of the entrance. It's going to depend on how they want the match to start. It's going to depend on the crowd that are there. It is very much a read the room situation. If you just come out of the curtain and make your way around the ring every time and do the same thing every time, here's another little trick that most people, I guess, don't pay attention to. If you do the same thing every single time you go out there, eventually they're not going to care because they've seen it all.
Mm-hmm. They've seen it every
So
single time.
maybe change that stuff up a little bit. And if you're somebody that does go out there and slap hands a lot, if you happen to be fighting somebody that you've got a feud with, maybe lobby to start in a brawl, and throw the entrance out altogether.
And even if you don't start out in a brawl, let's take you talk about Justin Taylor earlier and his use of the F word and what that did to the crowd. Justin Taylor way over with kids. So if Justin Taylor is normally goes around slapping hands, telling the kids, "Come on, let's do this," if he's in a feud with somebody and he comes straight to the ring, it's got the same effect as
Yeah,
him using the F word. You know he's pissed because he
yeah,
didn't. He went straight to the ring.
yeah. He's serious.
So I don't think that it has to be done every time. I think it's very much a read the room kind of situation.
It is.
Now the third question, and this is a good one: should every match on the card start with a lockup?
I don't think so. Uh, I actually prefer matches that don't start with a lockup. Um, because here, look, if you are having a traditional wrestling match, if this is a competitive sporting event, I can see two traditionalist wrestlers locking up traditionally. If you're having a match centered around solving a conflict with violence, why would you lock up?
No, I agree with you.
If you and I are heated to the point that we're cutting promos on each other, every week, and we're going to have a match for the first time since we cut all these promos and saw all this terrible stuff, and we've gotten real personal in our promos, and we're going to have a match. Why would we take steps to have a exhibition? It, it's it's
Makes sense.
it's one of those things. You have to apply it to the situation at hand. You have to make it fit what we're doing. What's the narrative? What's the point? And then if you want to make it work, make it work.
I agree with that. We've got Mikey in the chat saying I would rather have a collar and elbow versus a no sell forearm exchange. However, I think people should be creative. And then, of course, J-Reb says every match should start with bats and thumbtacks.
Uh,
I mean, it could be fun. My thoughts on the lockup are this: there's two, maybe three reasons you should use the lockup. The first is like you're talking. If it's two legends going at it, that's what you know. That's the start of the match between these two greats. I'm good with it then. But then you end up with the same trope. Uh, collar and elbow into a headlock, push to the ropes, bump into each other, nobody moves, do it again. Like you run into that trope with that one. The other reason, and probably the most important reason for a lockup, in my opinion, now keep in mind, I'm not a wrestler. I don't get in the ring. I don't do I don't do collar and elbow. I don't do this. But for me, and it kind of pulls the kayfabe curtain back a little bit, is communication. If you and I are in a match and we do something, I hurt my back, I tweak my back to where I know I'm going to have a problem, and we lock up, we're locked up close enough that I can tell you, hey, I tweaked my back. I can't do this. So, I mean, that to me, those are the reasons you use that. Yeah, that's the reason you use the lockup.
I get that. I just think that the conventions are not always needed, and it should match what we're doing, and it shouldn't make people have to scratch their head and like, well, I thought these guys hated each other. Like,
Right.
why are they participating? I mean, I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, we've got Mikey in the chat saying, have you ever seen two hosses lock up and take it all the way around ringside after spilling through the middle rope?
Yes.
I have.
Yeah.
And it's when you add that kind of thing to it. Would Guapo do a lockup with Sid?
No, absolutely not. No,
No,
that's the point. That's the whole point of what we just talked about.
it is. And if I tried to lock up with Sid, he would pick me up and throw me. Like there's if I lock up with Sid, I'm putting myself in a situation where I'm about to get hurt. So that's not how I would start a match with him. We go back to thumbtacks and bats at that point. Just saying. That's how you start that match.
Good Lord.
I don't know, man. I wanted to ask you about this because it's another thing that see, that's how I start a match with Big Sid. Step up, drop down, schmeckle bar, right off the bat. I'm already at an advantage. So one of the things that's being talked about a lot, and I received a message about this, and I'll leave the messenger anonymous. But one of the things that's being brought up a lot in different areas of the United States, especially in the independent circuit, is intergender wrestling. Intergender tag teams, men versus women. And what do we think about that? I can let you go first. I can go first. What do you want to do?
I'll go first. Intergender wrestling is something that I feel a lot of ways about. You have to understand, I am very much a stickler for the product in the ring making sense.
Mm-hmm.
I am very much a stickler for the fundamentals of what we do and what we're trying to make this look like. I am generally down on performance art wrestling because I feel like you just slap people across the face with how fake it all is. Everyone at this point understands that what we do is a work.
Right.
But they choose to pay their money anyway so that they can come escape for however many hours they have. If they're choosing to believe, why don't you just let them believe? Why do you have to bring them into the space of, hey, everything you're watching is crap? So I'm not a fan of the 50,000 moves that we don't sell. I'm not a fan of the lazy bullshit that we do sell. And I'm not a fan of things that don't make logistics sense. So for me, if I'm going to do intergender wrestling, men and women together have to do this in a way that is believable. I'll give you an example on the major scale. Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, these are big, broad women. If they get in the ring with a Finn Balor, a Miz, a JD McDonough, a Pete Dunne, if they get in the ring with those people, they should be able at times to bump those people, and they should be able to maybe overpower them on occasion.
Right.
But they should still sell as if that man has a stronger power base, because genetically they are not the same.
Very true.
If those same women get in the ring with Braun Strowman, they should have a hell of a time throwing him around. Mm-hmm. They should be very unlikely to bump him. If someone the size of a Zelina Vega gets in the ring with Miz, she should not be able to have her way with him. If she gets in the ring with
Miz
a Damian
Priest, disappointed to hear that.
Huh?
Miz is going to be disappointed to hear that.
Well, all I know is if they get in the ring, if a Zelina Vega gets in the ring with Damian Priest, she should get murdered.
Yes, okay? Absolutely.
I am the one who originally booked Lilith Blood, OTB, to wrestle men. I did so because I felt like she had a unique look, a unique power base, and I could sell her being a China-esque type of woman as long as we kept her believable. And the way that here's the secret. Anybody who wants to hear the secret, here's the secret. The reason that people take Lilith Blood seriously wrestling guys is because more times than not, she gets her ass handed to her. Yep. But every once in a while, she will get that win. She'll always get her moments. And even when she gets beat, she stands up, she dusts herself off, and she says, "You did it once, now let's see you do it again." Right. And that builds respect. She is popular and believable because she has built a level of respect by not insulting the intelligence of the people she's wrestling for. And more times than not, on the independent scene, intergender wrestling insults the intelligence of the viewer. And I won't do that. Now, I will tell you, moving forward, SCP will start having more intergender wrestling. But I absolutely guarantee you they will not be going out there and doing whatever they want to do. Those matches will be highly structured, highly booked, and they will be done in a way that makes sense. And if the people involved in those matches don't like that, there's the door.
Nope, as it should be. And as far as it goes for me, I'm with you in the fact that it's got to make sense. I don't care what the gimmick is. I don't care what the story is. And you know me, I'm a story guy. If it doesn't make sense,
as am I,
then you don't do it. Now you've got some teams, and kudos to this particular team. You've got a team like Only Friends, which is Logan Knight and Stormy Renee. They have an entire story. Like they have their gimmick. It's really well done, and they don't do matches where it doesn't make any sense. They do matches where if they're up against I don't want to go Braun Strowman because that's a little big, but if they're in the match with let's say a Damian Priest kind of person, they're going to, Stormy Renee is not going to end up in there. She may reach out and slap the hell out of him, and then she's right back out, and Logan's coming in. It's that kind of thing that it's got to make sense. I have zero problem with intergender wrestling. I don't.
The Only Friends is very much a sports entertaining type of team. And they have their stuff set so that they have a lot of comedy. They have a lot of situations where they do a lot of tongue in cheek stuff. And I think that helps their team because they're not going out there and trying to be the Road Warriors.
Right.
But see, there's so many people on the indie scene that they believe because it's performance art and because everybody's in on it, this girl can just pick this dude up and drop him on his head and he's supposed to sell it. If that's what you want to watch, there's 100 promotions out there that'll do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you moving forward, as I get into intergender stuff, my promotion is not going to be that promotion.
Well, and I think J-Reb puts it right in the chat. If it doesn't look believable, you lose people's interest in the match.
Yeah.
They start leaning over, talking about the match that happened before this one or the match they're waiting to see after this one, instead of having their interest in the match. So believability and just making sense. That's the big thing about intergender wrestling for me. You talk about Lilith Blood. I've seen matches where Lilith Blood and the person she was wrestling look a whole lot like CM Punk did on Raw after the match. But it's always believable. It's never, it's never Lilith came out and body slammed Andre. Because that's, we never get that. And we shouldn't get that. It shouldn't be that way. No. And I think that's, you talk about respect. That's where we lose a lot of intergender wrestling, is the lack of respect, especially in a locker room.
Yeah.
If you're not respected in the locker room, it makes what you do that much harder.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose the respect if it's not believable. If you're not adding to the product, then you're subtracting from the product. Yeah. Mikey says, all right, for fun's sake, I think Rick needs to publicly explain his feelings about grenades and imaginary doors. Okay, I have been waiting for a reason to talk about this. So this falls in my opinion, to what you refer to as performance art wrestling. Are you good with talking about this and explaining why performance art wrestling doesn't work?
I'm trying to figure out a way to talk about this without cursing a lot. Okay. It goes back to what I said before about you might as well, if you're going to do imaginary hand grenades, magic doors, if you're going to do all these tropes that the indie scene loves to do, you might as well just grab megaphones and stand at the ring and scream, everything we're doing is bullshit. So, because it's the same thing. And for those of you who don't know what the imaginary hand grenade is, this was something that Chuck Taylor used to do. Chuck Taylor, best friends, AEW. In Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, they used to have a spot where you'd have 6, 7, 8 guys in the ring, everybody brawling, and Chuck Taylor would pull an imaginary hand grenade out of his pocket and scream, "Hand grenade!" And he would bite the imaginary pin and he'd throw it. And in 5 seconds later, everyone in the ring would take a bump because the grenade exploded. And the crowd at PWG went bananas. They loved it. it's the kind of thing that I find to be wholly embarrassing, and it makes me sad that people think it's funny. I think it's sad if a wrestler that I actually respect participates in that bullshit. Um, that's the kind of thing that if I found out that somebody I regularly booked did that at another show, I would not book them anymore.
There's a
Because
story.
it's ridiculous.
It is. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the grenade thing or the throwing the bowling ball thing, those are great for end zone touchdown dances, you know? Not so much in the wrestling ring. There's a story you've told me before, and when you talk about things like this, it's the one that comes to mind. With, I don't remember if it was a tag team or individual, Zack Attack.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, so we had a tag team at SCP for a little bit. This was in 2015, 2016, called the Bayside Boys.
Bayside.
And they were a Saved by the Bell parody team. You had Whack Morris and AC Hater. And our crowd loved them. Loved them. They were very entertaining. Really good and good dudes. Decently good people. Well, they had a match with La Migra, El Gringo Loco and Charlie 50. And as the match was winding down, Gringo was holding AC Hater, and Charlie 50 was about to hit Charlie, or about to hit AC Hater, and Whack Morris, because he's the Zach Morris ripoff, called timeout. Because if you ever watched Saved by the Bell, Zach Morris would talk to break the fourth wall, call timeout. He called timeout. Everybody froze. And Whack Morris entered the ring and moved people around so that when they called time in, 50 hit Gringo. Now, the crowd popped. I'm not going to say they didn't. I was livid.
I can imagine.
Because it's unnecessarily stupid. And even if you did it just to get that one pop, what is the lingering damage that was done? How many people were at that show who walked away from that show saying, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen? And the Bayside Boys were never brought back.
No, and understandably so. I think J-Reb says sacrilegious. It works on TV shows, but in real life, it's absolutely ridiculous. And that's true. It does work on a TV show. And as a matter of fact, I think that the Bayside Boys should go ahead and hit up Tony Khan, because I think they can make that work at AEW. I think that fits into the clown show narrative just fine.
There's two versions of magic doors. Magic doors in the ring is when you're fighting a guy and you stop him and you draw an imaginary door from the mat up, cross down, and then you knock on the door and you convince them to open the imaginary door, and then they punch you in the face. So again, that's some Shields and Yarnell bullshit. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
the only time a door thing works is if you're the APA.
Yeah.
Then the door works.
Dude, when they'd walk around the door, they'd be like, knock on the door. The door's right there. That's funny. But there's another one that Chikara used to do. Chikara would have a setup where there were 3 different curtains that you could walk through to come out. And they had 2 dudes running around the ring and running through the doors and running through the curtains. And then one of them was on one side of the room and the other one was on the other side of the room, but they were right next to the curtains. And the dude over here punches through the curtain, and on the other side, all the way around, same gloves, same fist, comes through and punches the other guy out. As if he was Mr. Fantastic or some crap, you know? But again, if your show, like Chikara, if you go to a Chikara show, you have to expect to see stuff like that. That's what their reputation is built on. So is PWG. But my reputation is not built on that stuff, so we're not doing that stuff. I find it insulting. I find it insulting, and I hate it.
Mikey says, tell me the Benny Hill theme song was playing.
I don't think it was, but I wouldn't have been surprised if it did.
Well, I will say that brings us up to our 9:30 point, so we're going to wind it down. I do want to say thank you to everybody in the chat, everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, whether it's live or after the fact. You guys are the reason that we do this, and we appreciate you being a part of this and allowing us to be a part of your Thursday nights. I do want to say thank you to Rick. Rick, it's always a pleasure having you on here.
I love being on. I love talking about wrestling. I'm always available when you guys need me.
I do want to say I've enjoyed just this part of just talking wrestling. I want to hear from you guys that are in the chat, those that are watching, those that are listening. Hit us up on our socials. Do you want to hear some more shows like this where we just talk wrestling and talk, magic doors and the holy hand grenade or whatever? I've enjoyed it. I think it's fun.
Before we go, can I read a tweet real quick?
Sure.
Just so that we can I want to leave people with a little nugget of the frustration that I feel as a wrestling fan. This is a tweet that was sent to Tony Khan by a fan, and I'm reading it verbatim.
Okay.
At Tony Khan, I implore you to look into weather cloud seeding. At WWE is creating artificial hurricanes to try and take out AEW. Notice how this started after AEW signs a huge deal with the WB, then during Title Tuesday, causing 700,000 AEW fans not to watch.
Okay, one little thing about the clown show, and then we gotta stop. But just this week, and this is the only week it'll happen, the last hour of NXT went head to head with the first hour of AEW Dynamite. The number disparagement, whatever the word is that I'm looking for, the difference in the numbers there is insane. It was like 800 and
NXT beat AEW by 555,000 viewers.
Yeah. NXT has been on CW for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Because of people like this. This is their audience.
We've got Chris Williamson in the chat saying, I'll listen to any show Rick is on. Mikey saying we need to do the three of us again soon. We could do that.
Yes.
Y'all want to shoot for next week? We'll just maybe not even do the recap. Like talk about high points, and let's do one more show just talking about wrestling.
Let's just do a freaking round table.
I love it. Mikey, if you're available next week, let's do it. Let's just do a round table. And anybody that's watching or listening, send us what you want to hear. What do you want to talk about? Not to steal from Cody Rhodes.
And anybody that's in the chat or anybody that's listening, if you like this, next week, come back, bring 5 friends with you.
Yes.
Fill up the chat room next week.
Mikey's saying he's busy next Thursday. And so I'm like, I am busy next Thursday. We have Nightmare next Thursday. But do not fear. There will be an episode of the Not Your Average Mark Wrestling podcast that we will show. We've got a couple of guests that couldn't make it on a Thursday that we're going to be recording
Oh, okay, cool.
podcast interaction with them, and that will be playing this Thursday night and next Thursday night.
Well, any Thursday night that you guys need me, I'm here.
Well, and we appreciate that. So to everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, thank you for being here. Until next Thursday, I'm Guapo. That's Rick Elzy. We're not your average marks. We will see you next time. Yeah.